Happy Friday, Miami. This is Buy, Sell, Hold Miami, a real estate podcast by locals. I'm Peter Zalewski, condo consultant, expert witness, founder of the Miami Condo Investing Club. I'm joined here by my partner in this podcast, the co-host, the moderator, no one else but Daniel Hernandez. He works over at Compass Real Estate, where he's a real estate advisor. He does single-family houses as well as condos. Daniel, happy symbolic peak of the winter buying season. This is the weekend we've all been waiting for. This is it. The weather is perfect. The traffic is out of control on one side of the city. You have the Coconut Grove Arts Festival. The other side, you got the Miami Beach International Boat Show. It is going to be bedlam, bedlam, bedlam. So how does it feel to be up at the pinnacle looking down on that beautiful view?
I live in Coral Gables. It took me 35 minutes to get 3 miles about to my office at Monty's yesterday. That's about right. Yeah, the traffic is real. Somebody asked me to go to Miami Beach this afternoon. And I said, A, I got Buy, Sell, Hold Miami. B, I can't get there before 8 o'clock. It's crazy. Crazy.
Listen, I'm not surprised they're asking you to go to lunch. Why? Because everywhere I look on social media, you are everywhere. Man, you are everywhere. Whatever you're doing on social media is exceptional. I'm seeing shorts, I'm seeing reels, I'm seeing long. Dude, you are everywhere. Kudos to you and your initiative, because people cannot avoid you. They can't miss you. And I'm sure you're giving them good information. So kudos to you and applause. Golf clap.
Thank you. I can't take credit for it. I got a great social media guy. He's fantastic. He's the reason why I look so pretty these days. And yeah, props to him. Thanks, Joshua. If you're just joining us for the first time today, episode 39, we're almost at the big 4-0. That's about as old as you are, huh, Peter?
More or less.
Or less. Well, if you're just joining us for the first time today, Buy, Sell, Hold Miami. So you got these two ugly mugs to look at or listen to for the next hour or so. If you look at the bottom left of your screen, over on this way, you'll see 5 topics. That's the rundown, guys. So every week, back and forth, Peter and I, we suggest topics to discuss to one another for Buy, Sell, Hold. And then at the end of each topic, we got them for 7-10 minutes each. We're going to either buy, we agree with it, sell, we don't agree with it, or, I don't know, hold. I just want to sit and wait and eat my popcorn. But jumping right into it, Peter, public input? So Peter, every 7 years, it's actually an awfully long time, the Florida statute requires community input for something they call the Comprehensive Development Master Plan, so the CDMP. And the CDMP is, it's effectively, it's a blueprint, right? It's how we're going to develop the UDB, the Urban Development Boundary, is a big talking point in this. And so over the next several weeks, at libraries, at certain sites throughout the county, they're effectively going to host these workshops where people can go in, fill out comment cards, public discourse. I mean, this is real urban planning democracy at its best, right? And so that plan is taken together, and then the state has to, or I'm sorry, the county has an evaluation and appraisal report, or an EAR. I don't really love that acronym, but it's called an EAR. And then with that, we're trying to overcome the obstacles over the next 10 or 20 years of development, right? So anybody who's not from down here, you might look at a map and you see Miami-Dade County. And what a lot of people don't realize is, yeah, we have everybody knows the Everglades out to the west. But to the east, it's also another national park. Biscayne Bay is a national park. So we're bordered in by these 2 national parks. And then, by the way, if you just moved down here from out of state or out of country, if you drive all the way down to Key West, we also have Dry Tortugas National Park off the coast, which is beautiful. It's like snorkeling in an aquarium. But we're surrounded by ecology, by environment, by nature. And then within Miami-Dade County, we have something called the UDB, which is the Urban Development Boundary. So we can build, and then you hit this line, and you can't build 1,000 units an acre anymore. I think, and the zoning changes, but I think it's about 1 single family residence per 5 acres in the UDB, outside the UDB, Peter. Is that right?
Yeah, somewhere in and around there. Yeah, it's supposed to be like a homestead, somebody who's like out in the sticks. I'm not talking Ted Kaczynski. I'm not talking Ted Kaczynski style, but somebody who basically likes a buffer.
So anybody who's been following the urban development boundary, and this is a cat and mouse game, right? You have developers on one side that are saying, hey, we need to build. We're surrounded by national parks. We have this UDB in place, and we don't have any space. Dirt's really expensive, so let's extend the UDB. The problem with that is that as it sits currently, the status quo, if I may, is that there needs to be a ton of environmental studies. And then within the county commission, they have to win over a supermajority. And here in our county commission, we have 13 commissioners, so a supermajority is 9 votes. And this is always contentious, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. There's a new House bill that's been proposed, Peter.
Tell me more.
So a gentleman from Hialeah, a gentleman by the name of David Barrero, he's a Republican from District 111, he's put forward HB 399, which does a lot of things, and I'm not an attorney, and nor am I in politics or up in Tallahassee with my finger on that pulse, but I did go through this, and what HB 399 effectively does, it erases a supermajority. So all this does is now, instead of needing 9 votes to move the UDB, as I understand it, you would just need 7. And those 2 votes...
The post? Are you talking about moving the goalpost?
We're moving the goalpost. And so Mayor Daniela Vincava, who is not a fan of this at all, she's up in Tallahassee this week, or was up in Tallahassee this week, speaking out against this, because this, how much money does it take in special interest dollars to gain a vote on the city commission, on the county commission, in terms of the UDB? I mean, I'm not talking about building a dog park down the street. I mean, I'm talking about serious, this is probably the most consequential zoning change that could ever happen in the county.
And they've been talking about it a while, Daniel. They've been talking about it a while. Let me take you back. In the 90s, there was a guy called Thomas Kramer. He wanted to put in place a casino, and he thought when the economy went to hell, they were going to go ahead and bring in the casino. They were going to have it on the beach. Then there was a movement. Well, hey, if you're doing that, let's go ahead into the Everglades. So they talked about moving the UDB. Then fast forward when we had another boom going between 2002 to 2011. Let's go ahead and move the UDB. Who drives a lot of this is Lennar. Lennar's a large single-family home builder. They are based here in Miami. They're out by Durrell, over by the Burger King building. They're always pushing for it. They're always lobbying it. Everybody wants to move the UDB. And what's interesting, next time you watch the Weather Channel, it doesn't matter if you watch the English-speaking or the Spanish-speaking. I tend to prefer the Spanish-speaking for whatever reason. But if you look at the map, you're going to see on the UDB, you'll see the lake, Lake Okeechobee in Palm Beach County. Then you go down in Broward County, go way the hell west. And then you come down to Miami-Dade County, and it's going to get hemmed in. It's going to be very narrow. Some of that has to do with the fact that we had somebody called Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. She was over in Coconut Grove. Her house still stands. She wrote a book called River of Grass. And that brought ultimately the national park system that came here. So because of that, because of the Everglades, because of the, let's say, ecological aspect of Miami-Dade County, we've been much more firm, and a lot more people have pushed back against it versus Broward County, where they said, screw it. Let's just go all the way over to Collier County, wherever the hell we're going to go. So where am I sort of going with all this? They do this every single time we were at a peak in a market. And then what happens? The market craps out. And once the market does crap out, what do we find? We find that we already have the infrastructure in place, and we can do something called infill development. Infill development. I want everybody to think of maybe when you were a kid. When I was a kid, I played baseball. And what we did, we took a rubber ball, we threw it against the wall, and somebody would bet, and we would chalk out the strike zone, and the ball would come back. That's what the UDB is. The UDB is that wall, and effectively what they're doing is when we hit a peak, we hit that, the ball hits the wall, it bounced back, and what do? You then start to do infill development. That is the future infill development. We got plenty of infrastructure ready laid out. We got plenty of dirt that's readily available, but yet somehow they want to go west. Why do they want to go west? Because it means a ton more jobs and a ton more things. But don't underestimate the underlying premise of all this. Property tax. Property tax is 2% of the value. 1/3 goes to the city, 1/3 goes to the county, 1/3 goes to the school board. Therefore, this is the way you fill the coffers. Maybe they're going to make the argument we're $404 million over in terms of our deficit this year. Maybe that's going to be the cause. But at the end of the day, there's plenty of dirt. There's plenty of spaces to build. It's just a matter of, is you going to do new, or are you going to do something that's less efficient and going block by block, lot by lot? And that's what we ought to be focusing on, not reclaiming Everglades and and basically draining it and created even more traffic havoc.
That's interesting. So, I mean, was it Lennar who was lobbying for that big development down south to push the UDB, and they vetoed it, right? This is in the last couple years.
It tends to be the usual players. Lennar's always going to be actively involved. Then you got some of the money guys over in Miami Beach. Some of them have acquired dirt, or they're buying dirt. They buy it at an agricultural price. Therefore, it's cheap. And therefore, if you can go ahead and you're able to ultimately get it approved with the UDB, now you've just had a significant value overnight.
So you're saying they're doing some sort of like political special interest lobbying arbitrage where you buy an agricultural zoning, you get the law changed, and then automatically, bam, you're entitled for, however many thousands of units per acre. That's a very interesting playbook. So that could be cheaper than buying in the central business district and then going through the whole live local process, right? Isn't it like the same? You're doing the same sort of thing.
Yeah, it's land banking 101. You buy a piece of dirt, you sit on it long enough, you let the zoning change. Overnight, you suddenly have this great, valuable piece of dirt. If anybody remembers out in Durrell, if you guys go out to Durrell before they got incorporated, before they sort of changed the streets, up there about 36th Street, which would be 41st Street in Durrell. I know it's all confusing, but if you go way to hell west, right before you get to the turnpike, you would have all of these freight forwarders, million square foot distribution centers. Why? Because they want to be close to Miami International Airport. They also want to be close to the ports down here. And right in the middle of it, across from a Chick-fil-A and $1 million German freight forwarder, you got this nice little paddock filled with cows, slowly eating.
Oh, and what were they doing? To have the cows there to count it as agricultural for tax purposes.
100%. So all of this is strategic. All of this makes sense. And if you're going to go forward and you're going to get the public to believe that you need to move the UDB, remember the Everglades, move all that, forget about the alligator, forget about the roseate spoonbill, forget about the panther. If you want to do that, you do it at a time when everybody's talking about, well, guess what's the word? The A word, affordability. This is the perfect time to push it down everybody's throat. And by the time the market corrects, everybody's going to be like, why the hell did we move that line? That would be my argument.
So is this whole EAR and CDMP public input process I don't mean to be cynical. This isn't a cynical statement at all, but like, are residents under some sort of illusion that a strongly worded CDMP and full comment box will by themselves stop the fringe sprawl? Or like, should I be driving out to Hialeah? Because that's where Dade County likes to make their votes, right? So should I be driving out to the middle of nowhere to fill out a comment card? Is anybody really going to be listening, or am I just shouting in a forest here?
For 100 years, we have been driving this economy. Remember, we don't have state income tax. 100 years we've been driving this economy based on real estate development. It makes the world go around here. And as a result of that, they're going to continue to come over and over and over. But Daniel, let me give you some good news. We got a bunch of boys and women, bunch of boys coming from California. What does California care about? They care about the environment. They care about all the touchy-feely hugging the trees. You got to wonder if maybe some of these newcomers maybe start to throw around some political weight. I know we're going to be talking about the story later on, but let's just hope some of our California transplants that have come here, some of them recognize how beautiful this place is. Somebody recognizes the clouds. They recognize the Everglades for what they are. They recognize all of that, and they start to step forward and say, no, this isn't necessarily a good thing. We don't necessarily want that. So that would be my long-term bet, my hope that maybe we'll get some pushback on it. But as soon as you got a downturn in the economy, moving the UDB is not going to make any sense to anybody. Why? Infrastructure costs. The amount of money it takes to basically put in infrastructure. You got to pie the swamp. You got to kick out the alligators. You got to kick out the...
No, they just turned it into a CDD, a community development district. They bond it out. They leave the home buyers with the community bond for the next 30 years. It's as long as a mortgage. And then the residents pay for it. I mean, that's what the community development district effectively is.
But at the end of the day, you still have to go through the process putting it on. Let me sort of give you a perspective. So Miami International Airport was Pan Am Field before, and I'm getting a lot of this from research. I'm doing a tour this weekend of Coral Gables, so I've been researching the Gables. So when they set up Pan Am Field, which would ultimately become Miami International Airport, it was out in the sticks. And then what happened? We grew past it. We moved to UDB. We did a variety of different things. What if all of these let's call them cement facilities where they dynamite the shit out of the Everglades. They pull up all the dirt, they grind it up, and this is how we build a lot of our condos. The limestone quarries out there by Miccosukee. Daniel, what if they moved to UDB and before you know it, just like Miami International Airport used to be in the sticks and now it's all built around there, what if these limestone quarries are suddenly just in the middle of development we got going on west of there? I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that's the concept you need to think. Right now, what separates developable from the Everglades and the alligators is an arbitrary line. It's called Chrome Avenue for the most part. But that's all it is that separates it. It is like gerrymandering. So all you do is change that line a little bit, and all of a sudden people can build, and you can bring in a lot more property tax.
Yep. We need to move on to the next topic. In another week, one of our, actually, I think it was Ralph. Ralph told us about the limestone quarry litigation. People actually living out by these limestone quarries and, dynamite, boom, and now all the foundations. For another day, need to stay on topic. Buy, sell, hold, public input. They gonna listen?
I'm a buy on the public impact, and I'm hoping our California transplants and maybe some of those from upstate New York who've come down here, I'm hoping that they bring out their ecological characteristics and we push back against this once and for all.
I'm holding because I gotta hold and see and hope that they do. Maybe they'll be as philanthropic as Ken Billions. Ken Billions has been fantastically philanthropic in this town, and there are plenty of bazillionaires. That's my way of saying billionaires coming down with them. Moving on, speaking of California dreaming no more. Peter, I don't know if you saw, no one knows which house he's buying on Indian Creek, but Mark Zuckerberg reportedly is buying a house on Indian Creek, somewhere to the tune of 100 to 200 million. It's a big swing, but who cares? He can afford it. Why is he doing that? Why is every freaking week there's another guy from California moving over here? I looked into it, Peter. So Gavin Newsom, and actually Gavin Newsom is against this wealth tax, or at least he says he is, at least in the reports that I've read, he is against this proposed 5% one-time net worth wealth tax if you have more than $1 billion. Quick math, if you have $1 billion, $50 million. A lot of these guys have way more than $1 billion. Say you got $10 billion, that's $500 million. So all of a sudden, a $140 million house in Indian Creek doesn't look that expensive. And look, all of these publications, Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, what have you, oh, they're moving here because of the California wealth tax. Well, guess what, Peter? If they didn't move, if they didn't get their residency before January 1st of 26, wealth tax is retroactive. So they're screwed anyway. So unless you saw the writing on the wall, if you're moving in March, sorry, pal, they might ding you, right? This has gone to a referendum in the state of California multiple times, and it hasn't gotten passed. But I think there's enough, or from what I see, there's enough turmoil happening in California that they might actually pass it this time. And these billionaires are effectively voting with their feet. They're saying, you know what? You might be right, Daniel Hernandez. Off to Miami we go. And honestly, not a bad gig for them, right? It's not like we're asking them to move to Cleveland. Oh, no, you got to move to Miami. Awful, awful, awful. So California dreaming no more. And also, something you and I talked about. I think when the mayors of our respective municipalities were buying ads up in Times Square a few months ago in the dead of winter, right? And, actually, it wasn't in the dead of winter. It was in the fall, in the most beautiful time. They missed it by a couple months. But Stephen Meyer, some other folks, I think Steve Ross, Russell Galbert was backing one of these billboards up in Times Square, basically moved to Palm Beach, moved to Miami. And you were commenting that the last time that the Tri-County areas really worked together was when everybody was begging Amazon to move a headquarters down here. And guess what? They're still competing against each other. The only people who have decided, hey, maybe we should join forces and create sort of an alliance of South Florida, because look, a lot of these Californians and New Yorkers moving down here, they look at South Florida as a region. You don't look at Palm Beach as a piece of South Florida. But, I think Miami is Miami, but if you're coming down from New York, you look at South Florida on a map, it's all kind of like the same hodgepodge to you. It's like, oh, I live in Boca and take the Bright Line, take the train down to Miami. We don't do that because we're from here, or you've been here for long enough that you can say you're from here. So Ken Griffin and Jeff Bezos have gotten together and they've created this alliance, I think it's called the Accelerator Alliance or some hoity-toity name. And so they're putting money in this war chest to get not only people, because we just said the Californians are moving down here already, but to get businesses to move down here. It's like, hey, look, I did it. Peter, you're rolling your eyes at me. Are you going to tell me Jeff Bezos doesn't build anything anymore and he's just here partying?
Boy, where to go back. Book called Bubble in the Sun. If you have not read it, read the book, Bubble in the Sun.
Wall Street up, Peter.
Bubble in the Sun lays it all out. When Henry Flagler brings his train down, old man Flagler, he goes after the wealthy, older types. Let's say risk adverse. Carl Fisher comes down from Indianapolis after he creates the Indianapolis 500, makes a ton of cash on headlights back on the Model T, stuff like that. He tries to compete with Henry Flagler, old man Flagler, for the older types. And you know what he realizes? The older types don't want to be in Miami. They are younger people. They are adrenaline junkies. They might also have an addiction. He caters to that. Even though you got something called the Volstead Act and you got prohibition, he says, screw it. I'm going to be a rum runner. He's bringing in booze. He is getting them all liquored up so he can sell lots on Miami Beach. We have a distinction in this market. We have a barbell in this market. If you are old and conservative, you're going to Palm Beach County. If you're younger and prone to be addicted, you're coming to Miami-Dade County. That's the way it breaks out. And basically, if you're the servants working either of these, you're going to Broward County. That's how it works out. The numbers show it. Old man Fisher, Carl Fisher, he's actually quoted based on letters that he wrote 100 years ago during the great South Florida land boom and bust. So what I'm sort of telling you is we are distinctly different. This is a house like on Thanksgiving where everybody's got political opinions about a variety of different things. These three groups will never work together. They're not going to work together. And guess what? You get Jeff Bezos, who I think is originally from here. He's got roots here. And you got Ken Billions, who's got roots here. I think Boca Raton originally, but made his money up in Chicago. Are you going to listen to out-of-towners? They might have been here from here, but they were sculpted. They came into their being.
They're very sculpted now. They work out.
Are you going to listen to out-of-towners coming down here and telling us how to do better? Daniel, have we heard that before? Didn't we just talk about how an Argentinian family that does grocery stores, they came up here and they told Hugo Colombo, who's a condo developer, listen, you know what you're going to do with your dirt? We're going to pay you more. We're going to put up a tower, and now it's in litigation. And I'm talking about the Aston Martin. Every single time this happens, out-of-towners come here and they say, listen, you guys are country bumpkins. You don't know anything. We're going to show you how it's done. And you know what happens each and every time, Daniel? The locals sit back and they pounce. In this situation, maybe they're just simply going to collect all the donations, all the campaign money, whatever the case is going to be. It never works. Bringing your school of thought and applying it to South Florida does not work unless you understand how it breaks out. Palm Beach County, old money, risk adverse. Miami-Dade County, addictive-oriented, adrenaline. Broward County, the servants that cater to both counties.